wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Leaf Blower Revolution is one of the best idle incremental games I ever played. I'd even say it's as good as NGU Idle and Dreams, two masterpieces I've already reviewed on this channel. I stumbled upon this game and added it to my wishlist about a year ago. And as far as I can remember, it was in March 2024 when I finally decided to give it a try. Initially, I planned to spend a couple of hours or at most a few days to grasp the game's main mechanic and hopefully record a review for my YouTube channel. However, as is often the case with outstanding games, I couldn't stop playing and eventually completed all the content in the Leaf Blower Revolution. My playtime reached more than 1000 hours. As you can see, I've also unlocked all the achievements, but that's just an icing on the cake. Hi folks, it's me, Yaroslav. I'm a game developer currently working on my own idle incremental game, Get a Little Gold. If you are interested, you can find a lot of videos showcasing the game development process here on this channel. Today though, I'll be sharing my experience playing Leaf Blower Revolution, offering my perspective as a game developer and analyzing what I liked and what I didn't. Despite being an awesome game, there are quite a few aspects that could be improved or perhaps shouldn't have been included at all. Of course, everything I'm going to talk about in this video is just my personal opinion and you are welcome to disagree. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. The concept of the game is deceptively simple. You start as a janitor trying to clear leaves from your home garden. At first, you move them off the screen with your bare hands. But instead of discarding them, you actually collect them. These leaves serve as a currency to purchase better tools and upgrades, allowing you to blow the leaves away more efficiently. Like every great idle incremental game with a huge variety of mechanics and complex gameplay, Leaf Blower Revolution doesn't overwhelm you with a sophisticated interface. You have just a few buttons to purchase upgrades and handful of icons showing your currencies. By the way, here's how the interface looks closer to the endgame. You'll even be given the option to hide less important elements to declutter your gaming experience. But all the complex mechanics and interface elements are introduced gradually as you progress through the game. I really appreciate this approach and I'm using it in my idle game as well. After collecting a few thousand leaves, you unlock a new leaf type, golden leaves. This reveals a new currency and another tier of upgrades. But more importantly, shortly after unlocking golden leaves, you can execute your first prestige. In essence, this means you exchange all your progress in the game for some prestige coins, which can further be spent on permanent upgrades, unlocking other leaf types, and accessing new game locations. For instance, shortly after your first prestige, you can move from your home garden to your neighbor's garden, where platinum leaves can be collected. Of course, you'll only be actually able to collect them if you unlock them in the upgrades menu. By the way, the neighbor's garden is the first area where you'll encounter enemies. Bees, birds, bugs and frogs. Enemies in the early locations, like the neighbor's garden, are not dangerous for your character, but you'll still want to defeat them to earn extra leaves. To do this, you blow leaves at the enemies, a mechanic that will be used throughout the game. Now, after purchasing more powerful leaf blower, you're ready to advance to the next area, the mountain. Here you can farm bismuth leaves and unlock another currency and upgrades menu. The cycle then continues with space and cosmic leaves, the void and void leaves, until you finally unlock red science by purchasing the red flask upgrade in the void shop. At this point, your goal is to gather all these mysterious flasks in various colors: red, green, blue, magenta, orange and black. The only way to obtain them is by converting one type into another. This is where a new menu called Converters comes in. You can convert your void leaves into red flasks, then red into green, green into blue, and so on until you reach black. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of this conversion mechanic. There's very little actual gameplay involved in it. It's just about buying upgrades to make your converters more efficient and unlocking the next type of flask. Frankly, I just don't see the point in converting one type into another. Anyways, once you reach the black flask, you unlock the second layer of prestige, called the Big Leaf Crunch, or BLC. As expected, prestiging via the Big Leaf Crunch erases all your progress, including everything from the first level of prestige. In return, you receive a completely new currency, BLC coins, and unlock yet another menu with powerful permanent upgrades that use these coins. The BLC shop offers a range of useful upgrades and even introduces new game mechanics, such as unique leaves, pets, trading, crafting, artifacts, scrolls, and alchemy. Of course, some of these upgrades are quite expensive and cannot be purchased immediately, but eventually you'll unlock them all, and they'll dramatically change the way you play. You might think that after playing for over 10 hours and reaching second layer of prestige, you're at least somewhat closer to a mid-game. But let's take a look at how many locations we've unlocked versus how many are still locked. So far, we've unlocked 6 locations: Home Garden, Neighbor's Garden, Mountain, Space, the Void, and the Abyss. However, there are still 19 more locations that remain locked. And believe me, the further you progress, the slower your progress will become. But that's not all. Have you noticed the locked tabs at the bottom of the areas menu? Those are entirely new universes, each packed with even more locations to discover. And trust me, it'll take months to reach them. After clearing the Abyss, you unlock the Celestial Plane, the first location to introduce a new method of acquiring leaves. Celestial leaves don't spawn and thus cannot be blown off the screen to collect. Instead, you need to kill enemies, angry leaves, to obtain them. 3 locations later, in the Hidden Sea, you'll unlock yet another mechanic for gathering leaves. Here, you need to blow lava leaves into ice leaves to fuse obsidian leaves, which can then be blown off the screen and collected. Overall, you'll be able to unlock 14 different types of leaves and 14 different shops until you reach the Leaf Tower, an area with another unique mechanic. This is the first location where enemies can actually fight back. Well, not exactly fight, but they can deal damage to your character if you don't manage to kill them quickly. If you have reached the Leaf Tower, it probably means you've been playing Leaf Blower Revolution for at least a couple of days. It took me more than a week to get there. But mind you, this is just the beginning. In the Leaf Tower, your main goal is to climb floors with increasingly difficult enemies until you reach floor 100. That's where the third and final layer of prestige becomes available. At this point, you can execute the Mega Leaf Crunch, or MLC, to obtain your first MLC coin, or 3 coins if you purchase the special upgrade with the premium currency, Gems. This will erase all your progress, including unlocked areas, shops, and leaves. However, with the knowledge and power you gained, you'll probably return to where you were within just a few hours. In return, you'll unlock the MLC shop, which contains some of the most powerful and essential upgrades for your continued progress. Around this stage in the game, you should start focusing on one of my favorite mechanics in the game, crafting. Essentially, the game allows you to craft special leaves that can be equipped to boost various properties such as damage, HP, blowing power, bonuses to BLC and MLC, and many more. The full list includes more than 40 different properties. Although crafted leaves aren't very powerful at the start, they become absolutely essential closer to the mid-game. Lower level leaves can be crafted directly, while more powerful ones are obtained by fusing lower tier leaves. For instance, you'll need 6 Biotite leaves to fuse 1 Malachite leaf, and 6 Malachite leaves to fuse 1 Hematite leaf. Additionally, every property on a leaf can be boosted using shards. After reaching the 100th floor and executing your first Mega Leaf Crunch, you'll work toward another combat location, the Pyramid. This area will likely take at least a few weeks to beat. One of the main reasons progress in the Pyramid is so slow, besides the obvious lack of damage, is the cost of unlocking floors. The floors in the Pyramid must be unlocked using 2 new types of currency, cheese and beer. Unfortunately, the game doesn't provide reasonable ways to farm these currencies. Okay, I think it's a perfect place to stop and discuss one of the downsides of Leaf Blower Revolution that, in my opinion, makes the game less appealing. how it forces you to achieve game goals strictly in the way the developer intended without allowing for much strategic choice. A perfect example of this, how the game handles cheese and beer currencies. You can get an initial amount of cheese and beer from the cheese pub location, but the quantity you can obtain there is nowhere near enough to unlock the higher levels of the pyramid. Remember the trading mechanic we unlocked earlier in the BLC shop. If you think trading is just a convenient option for exchanging redundant leaves for needed resources, think again. Trading is literally the only way to obtain the vast amount of cheese and beer required to unlock the later levels of the pyramid. And trading is tough. You'll likely spend days or even weeks leveling up your trading skills to obtain enough cheese and beer. There's even a detailed guide on the game's Discord server explaining how to level up trading in order to collect the necessary resources. The same applies to the claw machine, a mini-game found in the cheese pub location. It might seem like an optional way to pass the time, but in reality you're forced to use it to obtain some rare resources. For instance, playing the claw machine is the only way to obtain the initial lanterns needed to start the Halloween event. Speaking of events, the temporary in-game events, Nature and Halloween, while they may sound optional, are actually essential for progressing and reaching the later universes. And since we are discussing downsides, let me show you the one that bothers me the most: challenges. Challenges in Leaf Blower Revolution grant you crucial bonuses, such as extra pets or increased crafting rarity. So, like many other aspects of the game, you cannot simply skip them. However, the way challenges are handled in the game is, in my opinion, absurd. To complete a challenge, you're required to hit a specific milestone, like reaching floor 100 of the leaf tower or collecting 100 million leaves of particular type, but with certain limitations. For instance, you might be unable to use pets during the challenge, or your converters might be completely disabled. And this would be fine if it weren't for one major issue. For unknown reasons, the developer decided to disable all your boosts and power-ups from all the layers of prestige you've unlocked so far. In other words, your progress in the game has no impact on your ability to complete challenges. Whether you attempt them early on or, like me, leave them for the end game, your experience will be completely the same. The only bonuses that still work during challenges are upgrades and power-ups purchased with premium currency, gems. But even those premium upgrades are disabled in half of the challenges. While designing challenges for my game, Get a Little Gold, I make sure that every upgrade and power-up does influence the complexity of the challenges players choose to tackle. For example, the initial run of the Million Challenge in Get a Little Gold might take up to an hour or even more. But after a few prestiges, acquiring global upgrades and unlocking hero skills, it can be completed in under 10 seconds. I leave it up to the player to decide if they want to challenge themselves by attempting certain quests earlier or return to them later when they are much more powerful and can literally obliterate them. That's why I tend to avoid running challenges in Leaf Blower Revolution unless the bonus for completion is absolutely essential for progression. For instance, the World of Leafcraft challenge took me nearly a week to complete, and it was not fun at all. But I can't imagine crafting and fusing the most powerful quark leaves without bonus to rarity it provides. Do you enjoy the challenges in Leaf Blower Revolution? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, let's get back to the pyramid. Somewhere in the middle of your long progression through the pyramid, you'll encounter your first real boss, the Witch. I say real because prior to facing the Witch, you've already defeated like hundreds of bosses in the Leaf Tower. But those are much simpler and don't drop anything significant. The Witch, on the other hand, is located in the separate area, Karst Kokkopunki, and you likely won't be able to defeat her right away. However, once you've built up your damage closer to the 60s or 70s level of the pyramid, you'll finally start farming her to obtain essences and curses. In Leaf Blower Revolution, curses is a good thing as they help you to increase your damage. Essences, on the other hand, are used in the alchemy to brew useful items that become necessary in later universes. The concept of big bosses like the Witch is one of those things that makes the game so much more fun and entertaining for me personally. Frankly, after spending a long time in the Leaf Tower and later in the Pyramid, I was ready to abandon the game. It was starting to feel too repetitive, especially after realizing I had to deal with all the trading to gather enough materials for the pyramid. But once I started farming the witch and crafting new, more powerful leaf sets and enchanting them with shards, I found so much more motivation to keep playing. Finally, after reaching pyramid level 100, you'll be ready to pass through the Black Leaf Hole and leave your Leaf Galaxy behind, progressing to a new universe, the Sacred Nebula. Well, technically you'll never leave the previous universe because you can return back to any unlocked previously location at any point in the time. In the case of the Leaf Galaxy, you'll want to keep farming the witch until you unlock the Death Book a few universes later, which allows you to collect the witch's resources passively. Okay, so this video is already the longest one on this channel, and we covered about a fifth of all the content in the game. So let me walk you through the remaining 5 universes real quick without diving too deep into the specifics. The Sacred Nebula introduces 4 new leaf types: Sacred, Biotite, Malachite and Hematite, as well as 4 new real bosses: the Centaur, Vile Creature, Air Elemental and Spark Bubble. Each of these bosses drops shards, so you'll soon find yourself no longer needing to craft them. However, witch farming will still remain one of your main sources of essences, so you'll continue farming her alongside the new bosses. In addition to shards, these new bosses also drop relics that unlocks completely new mechanic in the game, called Leaf Sentience. Look, by now, you probably have more than enough lower tier leaves and have maxed out their shops. The new mechanic allows you to trade large amounts of lower tier leaves for Leaf Sentience, which increase your damage if you have the corresponding relics. The damage boost from Leaf Sentience may not seem significant at first, but it will build up and eventually become one of your main sources of damage later in the game. The Sacred Nebula also unlocks new tiers of crafted leaves that can't be crafted directly, but can only be fused. So most of your time in the Sacred Nebula will be spent trying to create a Hematite set, which will allow you to defeat the Spark Bubble boss and move on to the next universe, the Energy Belt. This is probably the longest universe in terms of the time you'll spend building your damage to defeat the boss Energy Guard and upgrade your Death Book. It starts with a new location, the Plasma Forest, and introduces a new type of leaf, Plasma Leaves. These leaves have a unique mechanic. You cannot blow them off the screen directly. Instead, Plasma Leaves cycle around your character, gradually increasing their speed until they eventually fly off the screen. You'll face 6 bosses in the Energy Belt, including 4 Terrors, 1 Super Terror, and the Energy Guard. Like the bosses in the Sacred Nebula, the Energy Belt bosses drop shards and relics, but you may also occasionally loot some Leaf Sentience from them. But the longest part of the grind in the Energy Belt is brewing enough essences to unlock and upgrade the Death Book. The Death Book is a very special item that allows for passive kills of unlocked bosses. It's extremely expensive to unlock and even more costly to upgrade. But once you max it out, which will probably happen in one of the next universes, you can forget about manually killing bosses forever. After crafting and fusing the plasma set and collecting enough damage to defeat next boss, the Energy Guard, you'll unlock the Fire Fields, the next universe. Opposite to the Energy Belt, the Fire Fields can probably be completed in just a few days. Personally, I beat it in 3 days. However, your advancement in this universe will strongly depend on your progress in another game mode, called Borb Venturers. In Borb Venturers, you send strange creatures, Borbs, on quests to fetch useful items. One of these items, the Heat Shield, is absolutely mandatory to defeat the Firefield bosses, Green Flame and Spectral Seeker. These bosses aren't too hard, especially compared to the previous ones, but the area where they reside is constantly on fire, dealing damage to the player. So you'll need the Heat Shield to stay in the area long enough to kill them. The Fire Fields allow you to fuse a new tier of leaves, Coal Leaves. Defeating Spectral Seeker for the first time also unlocks the ability to craft biotite leaves directly, significantly speeding up the crafting and fusing process. The next universe, the Soul Realm, is kind of separated into two parts. The first part is fairly short. Initially, you'll need to reach floor 20 of the Soul Crypt, an area similar to the Leaf Tower we experienced earlier. Once you reach floor 20, you'll unlock the first boss of the Soul Realm, called the Soul Mirage. After defeating the Soul Mirage just once, you'll unlock the final universe in the Leaf Blower Revolution called the Quark Ambit. You can proceed there right away, but that doesn't mean you've completed the Soul Realm, as there are two more bosses left, including the final boss of the game, the Weaver of Worlds. However, you won't be able to defeat them yet, so you'll need to return to the Soul Realm after progressing through the Quark Ambit. The Quark Ambit introduces the last and most powerful type of leaf, the Quark Leaf, and three more bosses, Atomic Arbiter, Cosmic Dragon, and Quantum Artificer. These bosses are protected by shields that can only be destroyed using a new type of damage, quark damage. Your goal in this universe is to slowly build up quark damage while crafting and fusing the ultimate set, the Quark Leaf set. Crafting process here is extremely slow and painful because you need to craft and fuse all the way from the biotite leaves to the quark leaves, and every next tier of leaf needs 6 leaves of the previous tier. A quick calculation shows that to craft just one quark leaf, you'll need 6 soul leaves, which equals to 36 coal leaves, or 216 plasma leaves, or 1296 hematite leaves, or 7776 malachite leaves, or 46,656 biotite leaves. Even if it takes you just 1 second to craft one biotite leaf, it would still take almost 13 hours of real-time crafting to craft just one quark leaf. And the full set requires 8 quark leaves. And most likely you'll need at least 2 sets or 16 quark leaves to beat the final boss. As you can see, I've already crafted both sets and am currently working on even more quark leaves, just because I can. Now I'm finally ready to conquer the final boss of Leaf Blower Revolution, Weaver of Worlds. Actually, I recorded the first encounter with this boss and am ready to show it to you. Okay, so what we are about to experience is my first fight with the final boss. I kind of gathered enough damage. It took me a few weeks after reaching the Leaf Town pit, and also what is important here is my quark damage, but I never tried to beat the boss before, so let me quickly show you. So if we go to enemies and scroll all the way down, you see that I literally beat each boss here except this boss Weaver of Worlds, which was defeated 0 times, and I will try to beat it now. So wish me luck. Okay, so the boss Weaver of Worlds is situated in the Soul Realm, as you can see, and let's go. Yeah, here it is. So first of all we need to beat it, and as you can see I'm already damaging them and it looks that I will win. Yeah, that's it. Now, as I've defeated Weaver of Worlds, the game Leaf Blower Revolution is finally completed. Initially I planned to just give it a try, but ended up finishing it. You can probably tell that I've absolutely fallen in love with this game. Despite some of the minor issues I mentioned earlier, it has officially become one of my favorite idle incremental games. I didn't even get to cover all game's modes and mechanics like dice, cards, mines, Soulforge, bank, or the exciting areas like the Leaf Town pit, or seasonal events like Halloween or nature season. So, if you are curious, I highly recommend giving game a try. It's completely free and I'll leave a link to it in the description. Also, if you are into idle games, consider subscribing to this channel. I'll be sharing my journey as an idle game developer, as well as reviewing some other great incremental games. For now though, Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.